Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audio Visual Services. We've got big changes in today's event landscape and in New York State. And so we thought we should have a quick discussion about those changes. Now, today's going to be a little shorter and it's a little bit different. We're going to have a special guest. Playing into some of these changes is my co-host, Ryan Finch, had his second dose of vaccination last night. So while he is going to be doing much better right this moment, not so good. A little green in the gills, but he'll be better soon. Either way, remember, we are here every Wednesday, 1 o'clock. Make sure you check out our Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Subscribe, hit a like button, be a part of it. Come on, all the kids are doing it. You got to be a part of it. But either way, today we're going to have a special guest. So because some of these changes are going to affect that old thing that we used to do called in-person events, I thought I'd bring in an industry expert and our own director of production and operations. I'm going to bring in Jim Marlowe to help.
Hi, Joe. How are you? Hi, everyone.
I'm pretty good, Jim. I'm glad you can make it on such short notice, but with such big changes, I knew you were the right guy to talk to.
And you're right, Joe. It's really going to change rapidly at this point as the rules continue to change and the amount of people getting vaccinated is increasing.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be the driver to all of the changes is the vaccinations and constantly increasing, and I mean, we've certainly been talking about it here. And as we're going through, we have a vast majority of our people that have been vaccinated at this point.
Yeah, I know I'm what we call max vax, which I waited the 2 weeks after the second vaccination. So I'm ready to go. You know what they say, put me in, coach.
Well, max vax, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, I have actually just making max vax today.
Nice.
So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But yeah, obviously the driver being the vaccinations. Last week, the CDC released some very different guidelines than I think some of the states were expecting. And New York State is certainly one of those states. And there's been a lot of political battles, I think, over the last week. But, we don't really talk about that on this show, Jim.
Yeah, we don't try to get into politics, not at all. But if I did, no.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. As far as what we're going to do, whoever's standing at that microphone is good by me. Let them talk into the mic and let's do our job. But certainly, today is the day for New York State. Governor Cuomo and the State House have officially adopted the CDC's interim public health recommendations for fully vaccinated people. And this is a pretty big move, I think, especially for our industry and our environment. I mean, it's been, I would say we're about 14 and a half months at this point since all this kicked in. It's been a pretty tough run.
Yeah, it certainly has. I mean, even when we have been out in public, we're wearing masks, we're staying as far away from people as possible. We're washing our hands every 5 minutes, and some of the times we're wondering whether we're within the guidelines and the rules at all, but the job still has to get done. But things have changed.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right, and because of the time period that this kind of program started, we've really been talking about streaming and a lot lately about hybrid because we knew things were slowly changing. And it's kind of been like every week there's been some new change. This time for the good, because previously it was every week for the bad. But it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little different as we start to get back going again and get those trucks rolling and get all those black cases out in the road. I think we're all going to be a little rusty, number one, but
well, for sure. And we found a new way to pivot. It's this new thing. It's called live events. Wait till you see this. It's something new.
Yeah, I got to tell you, based on a couple of events I've done recently, um, it's a little tedious trying to do an all-day event online. A little
Yeah.
different when you have food in front of you, you have people to talk to. There's something going on that's of entertainment value. Um, you're in a new place you've never been. Those are something to be said about all those experiences, right?
But yeah, and a big part of it was the actual, what we've seen is the actual networking in between the sessions when the people were out getting their coffee or their lunch or whatever, and they're talking to each other and interacting. And we all miss that, not just at meetings, but everywhere. You miss
Yeah.
just being able to talk to human beings and stuff.
Yeah,
So
no, I agree.
we're looking forward to coming back.
Well, then let's see what some of these things are and see how they affect us, right?
Yes. So go right
I
ahead.
guess I guess the first thing that jumps off because it becomes really important is the fact that there's an increase from 100 people to 250 people on the indoor side. Of course, there's some other guidelines that go with it, but it seems to be, there's social distance guidelines that have to be followed. And apparently you can have more people if there's proof of testing or vaccinations are in place. I like to think that that's going to be the responsibility of the venues as opposed to the production team, but I can already see that we're going to be involved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, well, we're already getting, health forms that we have to fill out if we're going to a particular venue. We have gotten, requests for either proof of vaccine or proof of a negative COVID test. I mean, this has already come up, and so I'm sure that's continue to come up in the future.
Yeah, and I guess that's something that it's that's part of why we've been asking our team, okay, who has been vaccinated? We don't want to dig in too far, but it's good to know because we know that some of our clients and some of those venues are at some point that's going to be a factor, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And it is a moving target right now, but certainly an increase from 100 to 250 people is a big deal.
And you'll recall, Joe, March of last year when I came to you and I had heard on the news that they were talking about that, it had to be less than 10 people in one place at the same time. And I said, well, how are we going to do events if we can only have 10 people in one place, And
Yeah,
it was a tough time.
Absolutely. I mean, you figure the average crowd, for us normally, I don't know, maybe it was 400, maybe it was 500. Most of the time it was a lot more than 10. And to be honest, it was a lot more than 250 too.
Yes.
But I think that's a pretty big improvement,
We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree. Now, whether the venues are going to have to now be the vaccination police, I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. We've already heard stories about, people forging their vaccination, cards and things.
Yeah,
or
I've seen that on
them.
the news. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think they're the only ones who are going to get sick. So I don't see a real purpose to that, but that's not for today's discussion. But I guess, what does this mean? If we could have 250 people in a room and they got to be spaced out 6 feet, how's that going to affect us in the production side?
Well, it's interesting because, for instance, like for amount of speakers or amount of like size of screens and stuff, you almost have to have the same amount of speakers or size of screen as you would for a larger audience because they're spaced out farther apart. So they're still going to need to see it and hear it. So it's going to be about the same amount of space that you're trying to fill, even though it's less people.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point because as we've gone through this thing and we, in the last month, we've certainly had some in-person events. Usually they've been a hybrid. There's been some streaming elements part of it. But again, they're in the same size room,
Yes.
Right? So it's not like, except they're further away. In most regards, they're further away from the screen. So we have to have like more screens, which is kind of funny considering it, right?
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. Like there's still going to be the same amount probably of equipment needed for the space. Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's obviously something to consider. Everyone's, oh, it's only for 100 people, but it's in the same, square footage that it was for 500 people.
Yeah. Well,
And
let's go ahead.
also, yeah, no, also about the what you're talking about, the hybrid. We're going to see that for almost every job we do. There will be events that are only live, but everyone's going to want people to see it remotely as well. It can still be a live event, but they're still going to want to stream it. That may be not considered specifically a hybrid, but there'll be a hybrid element to it.
Yeah, and I expect that for a long time and possibly permanently.
Forever.
I think that's just going to depend on the type of event. But let's see what else we got here in the government side. All right, so outdoor events. It looks like outdoor events have increased from 250 people to 500. Okay, well, we're certainly seeing that as the graduation season is upon us, right?
Yes, exactly. That's what I was going to say. Graduations. Yeah, we're seeing it already.
Yeah,
and some of these tents are giant too.
I know they are. Some of these tents are really big for 500 people.
The woman I was talking to today said that the tent company told her it was a circus tent.
That sounds like a joke for another day, but still in these cases, there's going to be social distance guidelines. Like everybody's heard the 6 feet for a long time now. There are some other rules, and we'll post a link at the end. But I think that's the biggest one is the 6 feet. And again, with the proof, there can be more people if there's proof of testing or there's some sort of vaccination process in place of checking. I tend to think that a lot of our venues aren't really going to want to mess with that, to be honest. But
well, the other thing to consider is also the fact that they're talking about, like an outdoor environment that you wouldn't need to wear a mask. And so that's going to change a lot as well. And that's going to be a little bit of a shock to everybody.
Yeah, I was actually just reading about there being some like mask-free sections at certain events, which I think is interesting. I mean, certainly Governor's Island Randall's Island is already booked for a big festival in September. There's a number of concerts that are planned for the fall.
Yeah, my understanding is that you would have to show proof of vaccination at that point.
So it becomes a little bit of a different game at that point. You have to show proof of vaccination. I guess it's going to be like your ID, when you go to buy a beer or something.
We were going to tie in here a little public service announcement. So if you want to go back to work, you want your clients to have events outdoors or whoever you are in the business, we suggest getting a vaccine, getting 2 of them. And there's a thing called the Excelsior Pass that New York State is issuing that you can get, that you can present anywhere, that will show proof of your vaccination and make everything easier as far as keeping track of it and letting people know that you've got it.
Well, I've heard that I'm technically not eligible for that until maybe tomorrow, because again, our Max Vax coordinator has told me that I got at least 1 more day before I can apply for that. But I do think it'll be helpful.
You got to wait the 2 weeks, and then 1 day after 2 weeks, you can go out and do a little bit more. I wouldn't recommend doing as much as some people might want to do, because it's always pays to be a little bit cautious at first.
Well, and here we go. So, but these guidelines of outdoors, people going up to 500, perfect for all of our graduations, for outdoor events. And I think people are excited to get outdoors anyways, of course, which is every winter. Let's see what else we got here. Do we have anything else? Oh yeah, the old indoor home increase. This was I'm pretty sure this is where they had the pictures of Cuomo looking in the window for Thanksgiving. And he said, I think this refers to that one.
Yeah. I've seen that, yeah.
He's kind of looking in the window, seeing how many people, counting how many people were in their Thanksgiving dinner. But look, that's gone. We can go up to 50 people now. And outdoors, no restrictions.
Nice.
Now, Memorial Day is coming up, so seems like that might have been in time for that.
Let the barbecues begin.
Yeah, interesting. These are now. I don't think these things particularly affect us a lot, personally.
No.
Usually, our crowds are not in someone's house.
And usually, when somebody does want to do an outdoor party, and we tell them how much it'll cost, they usually say, yeah, no."
This is true. Now, while it doesn't make up a big portion of our business, there are certainly a lot of people in our community that rely on stadium work, whether it's for concerts or sports. They're increasing to 33%. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to full capacity. I think down in Texas, they're okay with it, but we're not there yet on that one. We're not ready for 60 or 70,000 people together, but 33% is still a good jump. You know, this is where I saw the mask-free stuff.
Yes. Yeah, I was saying the other day, I was somewhere and people were like walking close to me without a mask, and it made me a little nervous. You know, I'm not quite ready for it completely, you know, but I like it. It feels good. It's liberating to be out in public and sometimes be able to take the mask off.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's, you know, I actually got to see some friends this past weekend, and I hadn't seen them in a while for the obvious reasons. And we stayed outside. Literally everybody was outside. We're spaced apart, but we were without masks. Like, we felt pretty good about it at that point, you know?
You can see people's faces and their reactions and stuff like that, because it's always funny. Yeah. You wouldn't know if someone was laughing or crying or whatever because they had the mask on.
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience, you know? But I guess that's part of it. Is that going to continue? Like, what are we going to see in our audiences?
I think you'll see it start to go away, but I don't think you'll see it all at once. It's going to be a gradual change, and the people who are braver or just more reckless will be the first ones to not wear a mask anywhere, and some of them already aren't, as you know. And then as it goes along, you know, everyone's going to kind of like, oh, should I? You know, can I? You know.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. Everybody's going to be a little different with that. You know, I'm going to just put up this page here, because I think that people are going to have to actually check it out in some regards, you know, and this is actually, you know, where all the updates live on the New York State site. You'll be able to learn all about what the new guidelines are and what's going on. Everything is right here.
This information, that's where you would also find the link for the Excelsior Pass on there as well. So. And if you want it, it's epass.ny.gov if anyone's interested. And it's an interesting situation for us, because while we can recommend things, we're not really in a position to require things. You know, and that may change as well. But you know, right now, they're like, well, we recommend that you get a vaccine. We recommend that you get the ePass. You know. And but we're not telling you have to. But
no, I think it just makes it easier for people to, you know, do what they want to do. I mean, honestly, but again, that's up to everybody to decide on themselves. It's just a question of how it's going to affect us in our production community.
Early on, people were asking me whether I was going to get the vaccine. And as much as I'm also concerned about my health, I said, well, of course I'm going to get it, because I work in a live event industry. And I need to have proof that I can enter a building, you know, like, yeah, are you vaccinated? Yes. You know, I can be here. I can be with your people, you know, with our people, and everyone will be relatively safe because I have proof.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Now, what I also brought up was the CDC, since New York State is going to be taking their recommendations. You can pull all that, but it gives you a list of some of the different things fully vaccinated people can do. And, you know, and again, it's going to guide you through exactly how many people can be in what space. On the New York State site, it literally breaks it down by all of the different things that, like, it's broken down by museums, stadiums, county fair, like it breaks them all down. Of course, for the hotel one that I was looking for. But either way, it was still pretty good. But feel free. We'll post this link up here for everybody so that so you can see that. Okay, here's our New York. I happen to look at arts, entertainment, sports, and recreation because a lot of our business falls
Yes.
into that kind of world. But it is something we'll put on the the different social media channels so you can see it too. Just check it out. It's going to be always very good for you to know. But I think the fact is we're already seeing the uptick now. The phones are ringing. They didn't ring for a long time there for.
Well, in April and May, I remember days here when the phone didn't ring all day. At 20, it was here from first thing in the morning, and we would only be one person at a time in the office. And first thing in the morning to last thing in the evening, sometimes the phone never rang, and sometimes no mail came for days. And it was a very different world than it is now. There was a hospital ship in the New York harbor. The military were patrolling the streets of New York. So things continue to improve, and we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And so the phones are ringing. We're doing a lot more now on the hybrid side. We literally have 2 events going on right now that there's a streaming component for the people who cannot be there or maybe who are not vaccinated. And then there's a live audience that is at this point under 100 because they were booked before some of these changes. Sure. We've certainly seen an uptick in June as far as, it's already graduation season, so we expect that. But there's a number of them, and there's a lot of other things happening with some outdoor capacities. And, of course, outdoor capacity means there's got to be a rain plan too. So put that in your planning list.
Yes. Well, the other thing you're mentioning about the 2 hybrid events that we're currently working on, I would like to mention they're both in New York City. And that means a return of the city to the real world. And everyone's going to be happy about that. That's going to be a really great thing.
Yeah, I think that's really important for everyone in the tri-state area, as well as, nationally and internationally.
Yes.
To not be able to travel to, one of the most interesting cities in the world is a problem, I think, for everybody.
It's nice to see it coming back. It really is.
Absolutely. So we talk about these in-person events, like they're the new thing. And
that's our pivot.
That's our pivot. I did recently have a client. We did their hybrid event, and we had only known them during this period of streaming and virtual events. And in their particular case, they actually came to our studio and streamed it last year. But as we were finishing setting up and we're just getting ready to open the doors, remember opening the doors, everyone, they said, "Oh, do you guys do a lot of these?" Like it was our first one. I said, "Well, I don't know. I've done over 10,000, but this is the first one in a little while."
You and I actually talked about that in advance. I said, "Do you think we're going to get to the point where people will say, 'Oh, you do like live events as well?'"
Yeah, she was surprised. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Right? But that is part of it, right? So now we got to learn some new things. We have to adapt, and learn new skills, just like we always do.
Yes.
And we have to be cognizant of the spacing and how people can see. And then, of course, the streaming piece is separate. But I'm happy to see a lot of familiar faces coming back and doing some work together.
We have to shake off the rust too,
Yeah.
All that gear's been sitting there for 14 months.
Yeah, you're right. Well, that's why we're going to go back through and like all the companies that are involved in our world, go back through and test everything and keep working on it.
Absolutely. Get the trucks checked so they work and not stuck on the side of the road. We've already done that and that.
Yeah, but these are great changes. So everybody, I encourage everyone to check on the new rules. Go to the website, see how it may affect you and your particular field. I know all of our event planners are going to be very excited to get people together and get them back out there, and our venues are going to be very happy to see people. I know that there's a lot of the restrictions have been lifted for restaurants, and so that's also going to play into the whole event experience.
Yes.
And I think that's really good for everybody. we all have a new problem, I think, and that's going to be a little bit of a shortage on staffing for a period of time.
And we're not the only business that has that problem.
No, I've been hearing that from a lot of our hospitality friends.
Yep.
Whether it's a hotel or it's a restaurant, and part of that's just the nature of what we're going through, and now we're going to come out of it and it's going to build back up, and hopefully we all are doing better than ever in a short period of time. But Jim, I don't know. Do you have anything else you want to add to this piece? We're kind of cutting it short today, but
yeah, we're going to cut it short. I'll wrap up a little bit and then throw it back to you. But yeah, as I recommended, look into the Excelsior Pass if that's something interesting to you. If you're a client looking to do live events or hybrid events, check out the rules for the particular type of venue that you might be interested in going to. Check what kinds of venues are actually available at this point, because there's some unique opportunities there where, a place that you might think of as inside event may have a giant tent as well. So there's a lot of options available for them. If you're a tech, get your shops back to speed, because we're going back to work.
Yeah, it's good news. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're right there. It's good news. It's time to get back to work. And, I'm really happy to see New York State adopting these guidelines. I know the rest of the country has been very happy, and there's been a lot of progress, especially down in Texas and Florida and in Vegas, opening their doors pretty much, fully about a week or two ago. So it's great progress for us all. But Jim, I appreciate you joining us today. I'm sure we're going to have you back in the show at some point in the very near future.
All right. Well, it's good seeing everyone out there. Let's get back to work.
Sounds good. Well, thank you very much for Jim Marlowe and his expertise and time. Jim's been doing this for quite a while. He's experienced almost every aspect of this industry, from TV to theater to rock and roll to corporate events all over the country. So, he knows what he's trying to tell you here, and he is certainly a major advocate for the technical community. As we're finishing up today, just want to say I do have a couple of quick things. A big happy birthday to my father today. Maybe he brought us some good luck here. He brought the Irish luck to New York State. And as well as one other person I don't want to forget. It was also just their 50th anniversary. So congratulations, Mom and Dad. Obviously, we love you. And we're looking forward to seeing you again soon. We saw you mask-free for a little while this past weekend. But either way, hey, listen, thank you, everyone. And we want to wish everyone well. Let's hope that we can continue this forward progress. And we're going to wrap it up today. Have a good day.